So first off, welcome to everyone here. And now that everyone has kind of gone around and introduced themselves, I will introduce me. My name is Matthew Clay, and I am the program manager for the Community Capacity for Prevention and Education project. The purpose of CCPE is to reduce and ultimately prevent the onset of substance abuse and HIV among 13 to 24-year-olds here in Monroe County. One of the ways that my team and I are going to accomplish this goal is by implementing an evidence-based practice called Say It Straight, which is what brings you all here today. So I want to kind of introduce Say It Straight by asking a question. Have you ever been in a situation where your deepest wish was to say no, but you said yes instead? Can I see a show of hands? Perfect. So the purpose of Say It Straight is to make your yes real and your no real. But before we get started, I want to just kind of cover a couple different logistical stuff, one of which is confidentiality. So after the training, there may be times where you'll want to share some of the things that you learned, some of your own experiences, which is more than okay, definitely fine. But what we want to caution you about is sharing what someone else may have said or someone else's experiences. Because sometimes when you're talking about someone else, something that they've learned, that can lead to gossip. We want to avoid that. The other thing is the notion of safety. So Say It Straight is a communication and assertiveness skills training. So throughout the training, we're going to be working a lot in small groups. So I wanted to ask the question to the group, what would make you feel safe enough to share in the group throughout the training?
Personally, mine is my own well-being. If I feel safe enough with myself to share it, I feel safe enough to share it with anybody. So I'm pretty open. I'm an open book. So if you take it, how you want to take it.
Definitely.
I think establishing ground rules.
Mm-hmm. Ground rules, definitely. I think a big part of this training is communication. This is an experiential training, so I'm not going to be just lecturing, and there's no power dynamic with this. And throughout the training, we're all part of the same group. So as I mentioned earlier, Say It Straight is a communication training, and communication is one of those things where it's almost like breathing. If you're alive, then you're doing it. But sometimes there's a challenge in that what we're saying isn't necessarily being heard correctly by the person in which we're communicating with. So for example, let's say you see a friend or a family member, and you can tell by their nonverbal cues, their body language, that something's the matter, something's wrong. But you go up to them and you ask, hey, what's wrong? What do they usually say?
Nothing.
Nothing. Exactly. So it's one of those examples of how when we're not saying it straight, our nonverbal cues don't match up with our verbal cues. Say It Straight is designed for us to better articulate how we feel, to bring closer to the inside what we want to communicate on the outside. And once again, it's that way to make our yes real and our no real. So we're going to be exploring various communication styles by really focusing on two different activities. One of which is called body sculpting, and that's a way to position our bodies in physical stances in an attempt to gain a more awareness of our feelings and of our sensations. Okay? And then when we gain an awareness of these feelings and sensations, it's going to help us take a more manual control over how we feel and over how we act, versus just running on automaticity and knee-jerk reactions. So it's kind of an easy way to look at it is, let's say you're driving your car, and how do you know when you're out of gas?
The car stops.
Car stops? Sure, hopefully before that.
It dings, mine dings.
Yeah, the signal pops on.
Signals, sure. So these body postures or body sculptures are a way to kind of gain that awareness, similar as to when we're driving and we hear that cue or we hear that ding on the dashboard that says, hey, I'm almost out of gas. The other thing that we're going to be exploring is various movies and role plays. Now this is a way for us to actually practice some of these communications in a safe environment. All right? And what's cool about the Say It Straight training is that you'll get to help decide some of the movie scenarios. Okay. So before we dive into the heart of Say It Straight training, I wanted to do just a brief imagery session to help us create an environment conducive to safety and to learning. Okay. So if you could get into groups of 3. So I think maybe this group right here can be a group, and then this group right here can be a group. And if you want to kind of position your chairs almost as if you're in a circle. Right? So within your groups, I think a lot of us were brought up with the idea that staring is a bad thing, that staring is rude. So if you want to kind of think of your eyes as almost like a camera, and let yourself take a couple snapshots of the people that are in your small group. After doing that, let yourself turn your attention inward, so maybe by closing your eyes. And in your mind's eye, allow yourself to become aware of the sameness between you and everyone else in your small group today. If you're becoming aware of similarities, allow yourself to go deeper. Let yourself be aware of your feelings as you discover the sameness between you and everyone in your small group. And in your mind's eye, allow yourself to extend your imagination further, so that now you can envision everyone in your group today. In your mind's eye, as you see everyone in the group today, let yourself be aware of your feelings as you discover the sameness between you and everyone in the group today. As you search for sameness, notice how you feel as you discover that sameness. Let yourself be aware of your feelings as you discover this sameness. Slowly let that scene fade. But while still in your mind's eye, allow yourself to become aware of the diversity between you and everyone in your small group. Let yourself be aware of your feelings as you search and discover this diversity. Allow yourself to extend your imagination further. In your mind's eye, as you see everyone in the group today, allow yourself to search for the diversity between you and everyone in the group today. And let yourself be aware of your feelings as you discover the diversity between you and everyone in the group. you search and discover this diversity, notice how you feel. Let yourself be aware of your feelings. Slowly let that scene fade. Once again, in your mind's eye, let yourself be aware of the sameness and diversity that you've already discovered. It's our sameness that connects us to our roots. And it's the diversity that enriches our lives. And it's out of the fabric of sameness and diversity that we weave uniqueness. In your mind's eye, as you see everyone in your small group, let yourself be aware of your feelings as you see you and the people in your small group as unique miracles. Now, in your mind's eye, extend your imagination further so that you can see everyone in the group today. And let yourself be aware of your feelings as you see everyone in the group today as unique miracles. Slowly let that scene fade. Once again, in your mind's eye, I'd like to ask you a question. Is there a person with whom you're currently in conflict with? If you cannot currently think of someone with whom you're in conflict with, go back in time until you know someone whom you're in conflict with. And in your mind's eye, imagine them in front of you. And allow yourself to search for sameness between you and this person with whom you're in conflict. How do you feel as you search and let yourself discover the sameness between you and this person? Let yourself be aware of your feelings as you search and discover sameness. Slowly let that scene fade. And slowly open your eyes. So, in your small groups, we're going to take just about 5 minutes, and I would like to invite you to discuss what you discovered. In addition to discussing what you discovered, also discuss the question, how can being aware of our sameness and diversity help us create a safe environment for the Say It Straight training? And also, how can our being aware of sameness help us when we find ourselves in a situation of conflict with someone else? So you just want to take about 3 to 5 minutes within your small groups to discuss that, then we'll come back together as a large group.
I think that with having sameness,
They have wheels, right?
Thinking of like diversities between the group, I see it as a positive just because
Well, I think
when everybody
the second
differences into a group, it lets people who don't experience those differences grow at some point.
Find common ground with
Interact
people.
with each other.
That's the basis of any kind of conflict resolution. That makes good sense. I don't think you can, and they're all different, obviously, but, so.
Repeat the question, please.
How can being aware of our sameness and diversity help us create a safe environment? And how can our being aware of our sameness help us in a time where we're experiencing conflict with another person? And you can also just share with, whatever your experiences was.
Focus on similarities.
Yeah, definitely. The sameness, at least within our groups, bring us together and create a safe zone. And then with someone with conflict, I look at it is if you try to find things that are similar, you can probably, kind of put yourself in their shoes in the situation, even though you have a problem with them at that time, but maybe you've been that person in another situation, so you can kind of, bring the situation down a lot.
I think, like you said, I was at the count. I was one female in here, so eggs, chickens. You gotta put brown shoes on. So.
Yours are kind of brown.
Yeah, kind of. Where do you work at?
Homes.
I work, I actually think on school on Thursdays.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the grant, the homeless grant.
Oh, okay. Chop program?
No, not shop, it's, Santa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so, I work with a small population, 50 people the first year, 75 the second, and then 75 the third. So, kind of more intense.
I'm already
So it's a little much.
And
I know I may be interrupting some groups, but when you're finished, you can just kind of like sit up, back up against the wall, so that way we all kind of know what's done. All right. So as we're kind of discussing as one group, what were some of the things that you discovered throughout the guided imagery session?
At least with our group, it seems like we're all open to diversity and embrace it and think, see it as a positive, definitely more than a negative.
And then ours was said, I made the comment of, when you talk about diversity, it's important to separate race from that, because there's so many different aspects when it comes to diversity. So one of the things that I picked up was the age differential in the room. We covered a wide variety of education level in the room, people's experiences, and respecting the different views that we're going to hear, because you have the opportunity to learn from other perspectives.
One thing, and when we were doing that, in the image, whatever it was called, I'm sorry. But, when we were closing our eyes, is that I pictured that, that even though, we have differences, we all have something, I think, in common too, as being the same, is that I believe that each one of our careers or what we're doing in our jobs is passionate and empathy, and so we all have this caring and passion to help somebody else. So no matter where we're at in each part of our lives, how different we are, we're all the same in some way.
So how can being aware of our sameness and diversity help us create a safe environment so that we all feel comfortable enough to share?
I mentioned in our group that the differences that we all have in values and again in careers and race and ethnics is anything, we can bring those differences together and, you know, to each other and build strength and a good foundation to grow upon, just to grow and root out in different areas.
When it comes to similarities with the whole group, I think the biggest thing that's obvious is that it creates like a safe zone, and everyone is able to feel comfortable with someone they can see similarities with. So that would be good with the whole group.
How can our being aware of sameness and diversity or sameness help us when we're in times of conflict with someone?
Sameness in a group brings power and strength.
What I said to the group with fear, with conflict with somebody, thinking of, you know, things you have in common, can kind of put you in their shoes. Maybe you're probably that person in a different situation with somebody else at one time. So maybe that can kind of bring the conflict down a little bit, and you can kind of become more understanding. And with that conflict, you could probably come and figure it out easier than just thinking they're totally wrong the whole time.
Good. Okay, so now I invite you to turn your attention to your workbook. So the purpose of this workbook, it's not just something that we're going to rush to get done, but instead, let yourself treat it as more of like a journal, a way to document your thoughts and comments that you may have throughout the training, as well as completing some of the exercises as a way to reinforce that cognitive learning. So right now, we're going to take some time to complete pages 1 through 30.